Today we have Chris Orr, and he is the GM of the Founding Fathers exhibit, and this is his third season doing so. And many of you have passed it on Highway 16 out that direction. So Chris Orr is born and raised in Detroit. He moved to Minneapolis in 1982. He has owned a commercial weather service there and worked for several other businesses while in Minneapolis. In the year 2000, he moved to Rapid City. He has been a meteorologist, a financial newsletter editor, and other stuff before being semi-retired to work at Founding Fathers. Being a GM at the Founding Fathers is a full-time position where during the week, from the months of May to September, he's working 65 to 75 hours a week. And then during October to April is his marketing season. Chris also has a wife, Laura, and two kids, Joanna and Nate, and they both have an entrepreneur bent. So with that, let's give it up for Chris Orr from the Founding Fathers.
Morning. This is our busiest week at Founding Fathers because it's July 4th week. Our busy period started really yesterday. It'll probably continue through next week, at least the early part of next week. July 4th, we normally do 3 to 4 times our normal daily traffic flow because of what the day is. And we do sell, just in case you really wanted those Nike sneakers, we have Betsy Ross flags. So we have those available. 243 years ago, 1776, that's what we're all about. And the Declaration of Independence, that is our focal point. And so I want to give you a little background on the thinking behind that, why we're doing it, and some of the challenges that we're facing as well, plus a couple of pictures that you may recognize about the construction phase of Founding Fathers when you all thought that it was a church that was being built, and you still think it's a church, and that's why you haven't been there yet. But I do have some broadsides to hand out to get you there tomorrow, or today. All right.
Sorry, I pushed this hard.
All right, our primary purpose really is to connect the city of Presidents with Mount Rushmore. We want to tell a story. So from the presidential statues downtown, all the way to Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, of course, the 4 presidents that are there, although they talk about all of the presidents. We talk about the founding of the country, so you get a more complete story about what's going on and connect the two. Also, we want guests to get a better understanding of the founding. And so we talk about what it meant for the signers to sign the Declaration of Independence, try to dispel some of the myths surrounding the Declaration of Independence so that they have a real understanding of what's going on. We get people who are Americans who know nothing about America. We have Americans who know a lot about America, and that's really, really good. We get new citizens who know a lot more than Americans do about America, and we love them because they know all of that. Our focus is on the Declaration of Independence, the Revolutionary War, and to provide guests with an experience. So when I leave here and I go back to Founding Fathers, I am going to be in colonial dress, and I will stay that way probably through Saturday because that enhances the experience for them. Also, the exhibit enhances the experience for the guests, and then we have the flintlock rifle range where people can experience what it's like to shoot one of those things. And it was not a lot of fun because they break down fairly quickly. And you wonder, how did we ever fight a war? How did you ever go hunting? We dispel myths about the founders, and we'll be able to do some of that if you come. One of them is John Hancock's signature. Well, up until maybe 1830 or so, Americans only knew the printed version, the typeset version of the Declaration of Independence. So they would have no concept of what his signature was. The other thing is we never sent the Declaration of Independence to King George, okay? We make sure that all of our books and games are accurate. We want everything to be historically correct, and then we keep the site apolitical. If you want to talk about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, we don't do that because politics didn't come into play until about 1790. Challenges that we have include hiring staff. They have to know the period of history, 1760 to about 1790. And that's not easy, although we've done a good job of it. Hiring range officers who are proficient in muzzle loaders is a daunting task, to say the least. And especially those who are able to be certified as range safety officers or chief range safety officers. I never shot a muzzle loader until 2017. I'm a range safety officer, so I can keep you from blowing your fingers off down there. And then marketing the site is a challenge because what is it to the visitors? And it's an ongoing challenge that we have in marketing the site for tourists. So a very quick overview of what we did. Don Perdue is the main owner of Founding Fathers. He wanted to make this connection between the City of Presidents and Mount Rushmore, and so he built a replica of Independence Hall. You know Independence Hall is the two long extensions. Well, Independence Hall was built over a period of time, so this is the short version of it, although it is designed to be built out if we need to. We took the painting called The Declaration of Independence by John Trumbull. The large version is in the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, 12 feet by 18 feet. Doubled the size of it to get everybody life size in there. And so you get a diorama of that painting. And you immerse yourself in there and get close and personal with the founders and see that they're real human beings. And we do a little presentation there, and then there's a sound and light show. The main artist behind it was James Van Nuys, who did a great job of turning that painting into a diorama. It's just phenomenal. So we have 47 gentlemen in there, in that room. Scares kids half to death when they walk in there and they think that they're alive. But we did that through modeling. All of the statues were made out of resin. You can see the posing there, the headless guy sitting there with his arms crossed. That's what happens if you don't buy a ticket. You try to get in. The construction phase, it looked like a church to most of it. It looked like a church to me. I thought that's what it was. But it was Independence Hall. And took a while to build, as you probably know. We have a replica bronze Liberty Bell that was made in France. You'll see a very similar bell in Pier. It's a little more corroded. We had it made at the same foundry as the one where all 50 of the state capitol Liberty Bells were made. It was made in France. And so you'll see the exact same bell in Pier. This one you can ring, and it has the E-flat tone to it, like the Liberty Bell would have had if it had cracked. And I tell guests, pull the rope as hard as you can and see if you can crack it. Because you won't, but you'll go deaf. Because it'll be really, really loud. And as you guys travel up and down Highway 16, you can stop by and ring that bell anytime you want. So just ring away. People in Hart Ranch might hate you for that, but go ahead. Our goal is to bring in individuals, small families, large families. That one picture there is, there is a family reunion that came and stayed. Farmers Union came because Mount Rushmore was closed, and we were very grateful for the heavy snow and the power outages this spring. It was wonderful for us. Oops, one second. We have a gift shop. And again, everything in there, we try to keep period correct and accurate. We don't want it to be a tourist trap at all. And so you might not find everything. My sales pitch for today, we have limited edition prints of the Dunlap broadside, a Gill and Powers broadside from July of 1776 rather. and also a broadside by Mary Catherine Goddard, who was postmaster in Baltimore in 1777. These prints are all on linen paper, hand pressed, and suitable for framing. Stop by, it's limited. And very few people know that we have them. We also have a flintlock rifle range where we do shooting. About 1,500 to 1,800 people a year go through and shoot the flintlock. And that's one of our silos. Our current revenue streams come from the exhibit hall, which accounts for maybe 50 to 60% of our revenue. Gift shop is about 30% of our revenue, and the flintlock range is 20 to 25% of our revenue. And those numbers don't add up. It's because I was woken up by the thunderstorm at 4. Well, that's roughly our revenue streams, and we're planning other revenue streams as well. Special events, that's me and Thomas Jefferson last year. He was a special speaker that we had last year during the evening hours for the 4th of July. And we hope to have him back next year. For the future, we're getting involved with the national planning for the 250th anniversary of the founding of the country. There's a congressional committee. A facility that's very similar to ours is down in Birmingham, Alabama, but they encompass over 100 acres. We only have 9 acres. We're looking for other places that are similar to ours around the country that we can network with. And share stories with, and maybe share exhibits with as well, and be an outreach for people to come who cannot go to Philadelphia or Virginia, and be a place where they can come. We have 9 acres, so we have plenty of room to expand exhibits and create more experiences for people, and of course maintain the period correctness that we have. And that's a nighttime shot of Founding Fathers. It's quite beautiful if you're coming home from Mount Rushmore to see the spotlights up there and see the display.
Can you tell me, is this a nonprofit or a for-profit business, and how do you make decisions on when you expand?
We are a for-profit business, and we make decisions on expansion as the revenue increases.
Okay, I'll ask a question. I'm Leah with Insight Partners. How did you personally get involved in this venture? I know you've done meteorology and stuff. So what drew you, or how did you get involved?
I have, ever since elementary school, been interested in this period of history. And then there was a job opening posted on Indeed. And I looked at my wife, and I liked the idea of tourism and the period of history, and I said to my wife, hey, how about if I applied for that job? She said, sure. So I did. And I had worked for Don Perdue just as the President's Information Center had opened back in the early 2000s. And so we knew each other. And then he was a sucker, so.
J.D. Henderson with Wrangle Construction Company. Are you guys part of any like bus tour packages that are like patriotic history packages where they stop with you guys, they stop at Rushmore, they stop at Borglum Store or whatever? Do y'all have like a system packaged up for like bus tours with that? You know, is there a market that works for that?
I think there is a market for doing that. We have not done it yet. To be frank with you, Don, up until last year, was against doing anything with bus tours, but then discovered how profitable it is. And so that's one thing that we're talking about this year, is doing some sort of developing a tour package that would be inclusive.
I have a quick question. Is it on yet? Shake it. I think this one's dead now. There you go.
Deanna Beckett, character coach. About 3 summers ago, I got to work at Presidential Information Center, and I don't know if everybody knows kind of the history of, the Perdue family and how that got started and how it developed into creating Founding Fathers. Do you want to share just a little bit of those nuggets along that trail?
What I know of it is his patriotic bent, and he wanted to have the presidential statue. You may know more than I do. Wanted to have the presidential statues downtown so people could experience them in life size. And then as that project was winding down, he wanted to do the Independence Hall and to make that complete connection there. He is 88 years old, so this is his last project that he's working on. That's in a nutshell what I know of the entire project, without getting into the wrangling on where statues would be and how they would be funded and stuff. But it has been a good outlet for artists too.
Can you expand on that when you just said it's been a good outlet for artists?
Well, we've had, I believe, 4 or 5 prime artists working on the presidential statues. James Van Nuys was one of them. The other ones almost escaped my name, and I screwed up.
John Lopez is one.
There you go. Mayer, and then a couple of other ones. And then those were for the president's statues and bronze work that they were able to do with that. And then with our exhibit, it brought together, I think, somewhere around 6 or 8 local artists under James Van Nuys to produce this artwork for the Founding Fathers.
Yeah, check your mic too, and you can hook up. What did it go?
On to the red light.
Okay, hold on, I'm gonna get mine. I'm sorry. Looks like they changed their batteries all of the sudden. Sorry, Facebook, we will be back just a second for technical difficulty.
I again.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, Alana Wilson with the Division for National Family. What do you feel like is age appropriate for this? For example, I have a 7-year-old. I mean, would this keep her attention, or is it more for older kids?
I think we have enough to hold the attention of anybody 6 and older. We tried a few other things yesterday. We had a group of 1st and 2nd graders in, and so that was an experimental ground for us. But we do have some trivia stuff for them to do. We've been told what a great movie we have. You know, it's a sound and light show. They look at it as a movie. At the end of the day, though, it's probably not the best because there's some sitting that has to be done and paying attention. And so if the children are tired, that's why we're free 12 and under, just in case you have a lot of tired kids. So. And shooting is for 16 or older.
J.D. Henderson Wrangle Construction Company, you guys do the musketry and so forth out there. Do y'all have any plans? You say you have 9 acres to expand on like a living history type of event or promotion. You know, you say you're in period piece or whatever, but have like Revolutionary War days or whatever it might be. You know, where you have a living history vibrance kind of event or two. Is there any plans to do that?
Yes, there's our plans in the works because of the space that we have. I've been in talks with a group down in Colorado that actually has a reenactment group of 120 for them to come up periodically. We don't have to have that large of a group up there, and then have other folks that come in. We had a family from California that was traveling out east, this was 2 years ago, who had all of their colonial clothes. So they changed our bathrooms and they spent about 2 hours with us all in their colonial clothes to do that. But there are plans in place to do that, yeah.
Susan Geisel, I'm in transitioning. Would you be willing to share more about some of your experiences and other expansion that you're considering?
I don't know that we're planning anything else at this point in the short term other than the reenacting, which is relatively inexpensive. We'd like to see another building out there where we can hold more meetings. We can hold meetings in our facility and also have more special speakers, and that would be within the existing facility. That's about where we're at, and increasing the number of bus tours that come through. Schools outside of Rapid City have been very good to us in coming. As far as Gillette and Northern Colorado, getting Rapid City schools has been very difficult. We did have East Middle School do a large presentation at the end of last year, which is great. It encompassed about 2 nights with families there, and we charged them very minimally just to get the exposure. We probably had 300 adults over that 2-night period coming. But that our big focus is probably getting more buses in the immediate on the revenue side, and also more schools in as well.
And go ahead and now.
When it comes to getting schools in, like you just mentioned, who is it that normally decides that? Is that a teacher thing, or is that the administration? Is that the school itself?
It's usually a teacher that has to go to the administration to get that approved.
Okay, I know a few teachers, that's why I was.
And of course, with the STEM, it makes it easy because it's 5th grade and 8th grade. We're also working on lesson plans for teachers that would be more helpful to the teachers.
I was just wondering what some of your challenges are day-to-day running the business as the general manager.
One is absolutely marketing and being able to utilize digital marketing. The next couple of days, because it's a significant part of our revenue stream, it's going to be managing the gun range. We have extra staff on for a couple of days, but the thunderstorms, and this is where my meteorology background helps out a lot, the thunderstorms shut us down. And we have to figure out when we can reopen the range as quickly as possible. And so I see that as a huge challenge the next couple of days. Also, with some of our staff, they are college students, and so we have staffing issues we have to look at after August 20th when they go back to school, and how we're going to staff that out with people who know history.
I have another question regarding marketing. Do you target homeschoolers at all? Because if you're going after the regular schools, do you target like families that homeschool?
We do a little bit, yeah. We try to get the homeschoolers in. We're also working to meet the needs of both, is getting a traveling trunk program going where we could send out material with lesson plans, which I think would work well with homeschool or small schools too that can't afford to, make the drive out.
Aaron Lewis with AJ Phillips Real Estate Solutions. So from October to May, which is pretty much the off season, you mentioned a little bit about the bus or school tours. What do you do what are the things you're looking at? What do you do to keep that going during that off season?
School groups are the big one, but marketing. It's looking for new avenues of marketing, planning. Now you know why I don't do TV anymore. Planning how we're going to be marketing for the next year somewhat, but the next 2 years. which means figuring out where we're going to be as far as a facility, this coming season, 2022. And so it's all long-term planning, and it's a rolling long-term plan. I also do planning on how we're going to change up our presentations a little bit. We work on how we're going to more effectively run the gun range. There's just so many pieces. It's fewer hours. Also a lot of reading. I do a lot of research on the off season. 2017, 2018, I read 10 volumes of John Adams' writings just for research purposes. And make sure that any staff that I'm going to have carrying over to the next year has access to all the more recent research papers to read during the off season. And then panicking in April if I'm gonna get the facility open on time.
I'm gonna throw a second one in it too. Let's talk about Saturday. So what do you have for requirements as far as, you don't want obviously people that are there giving opinions or their opinion of history. So what do you do as far as, accrediting, so to speak, the staff that you do have?
So far, we've been very, very lucky in being able to have, I've got a staff member from Virginia who knows a lot about that Virginian history, which is tainted with some fallacies, but we've been working on her. I have a person who's a former National Park employee and has worked at George Washington's mother's house, so she knows history quite well. I've got 2 students who are history majors, actually 3 students who are history majors, and we just train, and make sure that they know that period of history when we interview for them. And it's not easy.
Is it even, okay. I guess I have a question. You spend a lot of time on the historical side of this. You say you don't want it to be a tourist trap or a tourist specific attraction. My question is, personally for you, why does it matter?
It matters because I want it to be historically correct. I want people to come away saying, I learned something new and that it's accurate information. Every once in a while we let something slip out that might be more opinion, which I cringe at, but Don wants it to be historically accurate. That's what I want, so that people see this as an educational resource, as well as something that they can immerse themselves into history and get entertained out of it and have an experience out of it that's enjoyable. But that it's factual and not tainted with gobbledygook.
I have a question. Can you tell us a little bit